Hey everyone, welcome to some additional examples for Chapter 3, Section 1. Just going over labeling angles as alternate interior, consecutive interior, corresponding, or alternate exterior. And then I believe this is in 3.2, but it says also going to point out to you if they're congruent or supplementary. You know if these angles are going to be congruent or supplementary if you have parallel lines. So you can have alternate angles, alternate exterior angles, and all that stuff without having parallel lines. But if they're parallel, it helps you solve for missing angles knowing that some are congruent and some are supplementary. So I just kind of included that in my example here. So I took this screenshot from our textbook and I added some more labels for the angles. And then these lines clearly do not look parallel, but I labeled them as such. You remember parallel lines can be labeled with the little red arrows, or in this case, red triangles. Well, they don't have to be red, but this indicates that R and S are parallel lines. So in my instructions, I say identify all these types of angles if T is the transversal line between R and S. So R and S are my parallel lines and T is cutting into it. So I'm just going to look at this group of angles right here, okay? So I'll start off with doing the alternate exterior and the consecutive interior angles. My alternate exterior, you're going to look at what's on the inside and what's on the outside. My inside would be what's in between R and S. That'd be 2, 3, 5, and 16, right? So my exterior angles are 1, 13, 4, and 6. So if they alternate, they're going to go on different sides of the transversal. So my alternate exterior angles are going to be 1 and 6 and 4 and 13. And then by definition, all alternate exterior angles, as long as they're in between parallel lines, are congruent. All right, so the next thing to talk about are what are my consecutive interior angles. Consecutive meaning they're next to each other. They don't skip over any lines or any angles to get to one another. They're also called same side interior angles. So they're on the same side of the transversal. So angle 2 and angle 3 are consecutive to one another, and angle 5 and angle 16 are consecutive to one another. And then by definition, all consecutive interior angles are supplementary. And remember, supplementary means they add to get 180. So again, if you call them same side interior angles, that's kind of easy to remember that they're supplementary because you say same side are supplementary, all those S's. So yeah, just thought I'd point that out. Next, I'll identify my alternate interior and my corresponding angles. Alternate interior just means they're going to go over the transversal line. So I'm looking at 2 and 16 and 3 and 5 here. And by definition, if they're in between parallel lines, all alternate interior angles are going to be congruent as well. There, I moved it in the proper place. So our corresponding angles are going to be one's outside, one's inside, and they need to be on the same side of the transversal. So I'm looking at 1 and 3, 2 and 4, 13 and 16, and 5 and 6. Those are all my corresponding angles. And so I color-coded my answers to show you that angles 1 and 3 are also going to be congruent to angles 5 and 6. Same thing for 2, 4, and 13 and 16 because they are vertical angles, 1 and 5, 2 and 13, 3 and 6, 4 and 16. So it's just something I thought I'd just add on, for your benefit. But corresponding angles are also congruent. So just to kind of recap of the 4 types of angles, only one of them are going to be supplementary. The rest are going to be congruent. So consecutive interior or same side interior, those are supplementary. Okay, everything else is congruent. So what I'll do now is I'll do another example with the same picture, only S is going to be my transversal line between lines T and V. So if I'm looking at S, T, and V, I'm looking at this group of angles right here. And so to determine what's congruent or supplementary, I'd have to mark these lines as parallel. Again, I know they don't look parallel, but I'm marking them as parallel so that way we can say what's congruent or supplementary, okay? So to start off, my interior, let's identify my interior and exterior angles. Your interior angles fall in between lines T and V because you're two lines. You can think of it like that. So 16 and 6, 8 and 9, those are interior. So 3, 4, 11, and 12 are exterior. So my alternate exterior would be jumping across the transversal. So 3 and 12 and 4 and 11. Just to further remind you, alternate exterior angles are congruent whether they're in this example or the other example. Just by definition, if they're alternate exterior angles between parallel lines, then they're congruent. I do want to point out that if you add together the measures of the black angles and the measures of the red angles, you get 180. Meaning, if I add together 3 and 4, these form a linear pair, so that adds to get 180. Same thing if I added together 6 and 16, 8 and 9, 11 and 12. So if I give you angle 3 and I say, hey, figure out angle 11, you would just be like, well, angle 3 is the same thing as angle 12, so if I do 180 minus this angle measure, I'll figure out angle 11. So just thought I'd bring that up for when you get asked questions like that. My consecutive interior angles now, they're going to be 8 and 16 and 9 and 6, or 16 and 8, 6 and 9. Order doesn't really matter, but they have to be on the same side of the transversal. And remember, consecutive interior angles are going to be supplementary. So just remember, consecutive interior are same side interior, so same side is supplementary. So because my same side angles are supplementary, your alternate interior angles are congruent. That kind of proves that. If this is true, then this must be true. That's kind of how all these theorems are created. So my alternate interior angles are going to be 16 and 9 and 6 and 8, and they're going to be congruent. And lastly, I'll talk about my corresponding angles, which are also congruent. So, I mean, if you want, I can drop in that label right now. But what are my corresponding angles? Remember, they got to go one outside, one inside. So 3 to 8, 4 to 9. They're not skipping over the transversal, so 4 and 8 are not corresponding angles. That's what I mean. So 3 and 8, 4 and 9, 16, 11, and 6 and 12. And remember, just like the previous example, angles 3 and 8, they can be considered congruent to 6 and 12 because they're vertical angles to one another. And same thing for 4 and 16 and 9 and 11. And then if I were to add up like angle 3 plus angle 4, that equal 180. Or same thing with any of the black angles plus any one of the red angles, they would also equal 180. Okay? And so with that, that's going to wrap it up for this video. Stay tuned for additional ones over this chapter. And thank you for watching. Hit that like and subscribe button if you learned something or not. Do what you want. But yeah, goodbye.